Hello everyone and welcome to Romans 9:20. I'm Ronald, your host. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome to the channel. And for those of you who have been with us before, it's so nice to have you back. Thank you for joining again. Today we'll be diving into two incredibly significant chapters from the Old Testament, Deuteronomy chapters 9 and 10. But before we jump in, here's a fun fact. Imagine you're about to move to a brand new country with no Google Maps, no TripAdvisor. That's Israel in Deuteronomy. Chapters 9 and 10 are essentially Moses giving them their ancient GPS, not just directions, but also warnings about the potholes and speed traps that they'll discover along the way and how to avoid getting spiritually lost. Let's open our Bibles and get into it. Now, Deuteronomy chapters 9 and 10 are pivotal chapters that serve as a stark reminder of Israel's past failures and God's unwavering faithfulness. The main themes woven throughout these chapters include God's grace, not Israel's righteousness. Also, remembering past rebellion, Moses' intercession, and a renewed covenant and God's requirements. These chapters are a powerful testament to God's character, his justice, mercy, and faithfulness, and a call for humility and obedience from his people. Now let's break down chapter 9 verse by verse, starting with verses 1 to 3. Moses begins by telling the Israelites, "Hear, O Israel, you are to cross over the Jordan today to go in to dispossess nations greater and mightier than yourselves." He immediately points out that these nations are stronger with large fortified cities and giants. Now, the key takeaway here is that Israel isn't conquering by their own might, but because the Lord your God is he who goes over before you as a consuming fire. It is a reminder that God is fighting their battles. Verses 4 to 6, here Moses tackles a crucial point. When the Lord your God has driven them out from before you, do not say to yourselves that the Lord has brought me here to take possession of this land because of my righteousness. He warns them against pride and self-congratulation. The reason they're getting the land isn't because they're so good, but because of the previous inhabitants were wicked and God made a promise to their ancestors. Now, in fact, Moses bluntly states, "Understand, therefore, that the Lord your God has not given you this good land because of your righteousness, for you are a stiff-necked people." Now, this stiff-necked description, it means stubborn, rebellious, and resistant to God's will. It's a harsh but necessary truth. And in verses 7 to 12, Moses then launches into a detailed reminder of their past rebellion, specifically the golden calf incident at Mount Horeb or Mount Sinai. He says, "Remember and do not forget how you provoked the Lord your God to wrath in the wilderness." He recounts how they angered God from the moment they left Egypt. Now, the golden calf was a major betrayal. Moses reminded them that he was on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, receiving the stone tablets of the covenant from God. But while he was up there, the people quickly turned away and made idols. Now, God was furious and almost destroyed them. We see in verses 13 to 17, the narrative continues with God's intense anger. He tells Moses, "I have seen this people, and indeed they are stiff-necked people. Let me alone that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven." Now, this shows the severity of their sin. Moses, however, intercedes for them, pleading with God. He describes how he came down the mountain, saw the calf and their dancing, and in his anger threw down the tablets, breaking the covenant. Now, this act symbolizes the broken relationship between God and Israel due to their idolatry. Then we see in verses 18 to 21, Moses then recounts his second period of 40 days and 40 nights of fasting and prayer, pleading for the people and for Aaron, who had a part in the golden calf. He emphasized his fear of God's wrath. He then described destroying the golden calf, grinding it to powder, throwing it into the stream, and making the Israelites drink it. Yuck! A symbol of purification and judgment. Verses 22 to 24, Moses reminds them of other places where they provoked God. Now, these were all instances of complaining, testing God, and craving things that they shouldn't have. He concludes this section by reiterating that you have been rebellious against the Lord from the day that I knew you. This isn't just about one incident, it's a pattern of rebellion. In verses 25 to 29, now despite their constant rebellion, Moses again intercedes for them, reminding God of his promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He appeals to God's reputation among the nations, asking him not to destroy his people whom he redeemed from Egypt. Now, this shows Moses' deep love for his people and his understanding of God's character, faithful to his promises and merciful. Now, moving on to Deuteronomy chapter 10, the call for a circumcised heart. Here we see in verses 1 to 5 that after the golden calf incident and Moses' intercession, God instructs Moses to cut out 2 new stone tablets, just like the first ones, and to come back up the mountain. God promises to write the same words on these new tablets. Now, this signifies God's willingness to renew his covenant with the rebellious people. Moses makes an ark of wood to house these tablets, and God writes the Ten Commandments on them. This act to rewriting the covenant shows God's enduring commitment despite Israel's failures. In verses 6 to 9, this section briefly mentions the journey from Israel to a few other places, which mark geographical markers likely included to underscore the journey and the passage of time, emphasizing that even through their wanderings, God was leading them. Now, this section focuses on the tribe of Levi. It explains that at that time, the Lord separated the tribe of Levi to bear the Ark of the Covenant to the Lord, to stand before the Lord and minister to him, and to bless in his name to this very day. It also notes that the Levites have no inheritance among their brothers. The Lord is their inheritance, just as the Lord your God promised them. Now, this sets apart the Levites for sacred service, highlighting their unique role in ministering to God and his people, with God himself being their provision. In verses 10 and 11, Moses reminds them that he stayed on the mountain for another 40 days and 40 nights, just like the first time. The second period of intercession and receiving the renewed tablets was crucial. God then tells Moses, "Arise, go on your journey before the people, that they may go in and possess the land which I swore to give to their fathers, to give to them." Now, this is a fresh start, a renewed commission to enter the promised land, demonstrating God's forgiveness and continued faithfulness to his promises. In verses 12 to 15, this is a profound and pivotal section where Moses asks the central question, "And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you?" He then answers it directly: to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, to keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command you today for your good. Moses then reminds them of God's supreme sovereignty. Indeed, heaven and the highest heavens belong to the Lord your God, and also the earth with all that is in it. Yet, despite this, God delighted only in your fathers to love them, and he chose their descendants after them, you yourselves above all peoples, as it is this day. This highlights God's sovereign choice and his undeserved love for Israel. Now, in verses 16 to 18, Moses urges them to circumcise the foreskin of their heart and to be no longer stiff-necked. Now, this is a call for an inward spiritual transformation, not just an outward ritual. It's about having a soft, responsive heart to God. He reiterates God's character, for the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality nor takes a bribe. He administers justice to the fatherless and the widow and loves the stranger, giving him food and clothing, impartial and compassionate, God who cares deeply for the vulnerable. Now, the chapter concludes with verses 19 to 22 with a call to action based on God's character. Therefore, love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Now, this is a direct application of God's compassion to their own lives. They are to fear the Lord your God. You shall serve him, and to him you shall hold fast and take oaths in his name. They are to praise him because he is their God, who has done these great and awesome things for which your eyes have seen. He reminds them of their humble beginnings, only 70 persons when they went down into Egypt, and now God multiplied them to be as the stars of heaven in multitude. Now, this provides a powerful reminder of God's miraculous work in their history and his faithfulness in fulfilling his promises. The central message of Deuteronomy 9 and 10 is a profound lesson in humility, grace, and genuine devotion. It teaches us that our blessings and successes are not due to our own merit or righteousness, but entirely to God's undeserved favor and faithfulness, but also showcases God's incredible patience and willingness to forgive and renew his covenant even after repeated failures. Now, in our modern society, these chapters are incredibly relevant. First, humility over hubris. We often attribute our achievements to our own hard work, intelligence, or skill. Now, these chapters remind us to acknowledge God is the ultimate source of all good things. This fosters gratitude and prevents arrogance. Also, grace in spite of failure. Now, just as God forgave Israel after the golden calf, these chapters offer hope and a pathway to renewal for us when we fall short. It's a reminder that God's grace is greater than our own mistakes. Next, heartfelt obedience. The call to circumcise the foreskin of your heart, it's a timeless message. It challenges us to move beyond superficial religious practices or outward conformity and cultivate genuine internal love and devotion to God. This impacts how we live, how we treat others, and our innermost desires. And lastly, compassion for the vulnerable. God's character as one who cares for the orphan, widow, and a stranger is a direct call for social justice and compassion in our own communities. It reminds us that true faith expresses itself in love and care for those who are marginalized or in need. It's about recognizing God's sovereignty, humbling ourselves, embracing His grace, and living out our faith with a heart fully committed to Him and compassion for others. Now, I'm going to have to leave it here for today. Thank you so much for joining me as we broke down Deuteronomy chapters 9 and 10. I really hope that this study has given you a deeper understanding and some practical takeaways for your own life. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who might benefit, and leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Romans 9:20, so that you don't miss our next deep dive into God's Word. So until next time, stay blessed.